Across the spiral reaches of the Centauri Veil, a faint, cracked signal echoes into dark space. A child's voice, terrified, repeating the same word. Help! The transmission is old, garbled, almost lost in galactic background noise. But one line stands out clearly, an Earth dialect. And that's what changes everything. The message, thought extinct, reaches Earth's deep listening array, a system that hasn't lit up in a century. They call them Deathworlders, because no species should have survived where humans did. And now, they're awake. The room fell silent, except for the low, stuttering pulse of an ancient warning beacon blinking red. Another anomaly from Sol? One diplomat scoffed. His robes shimmered in court blue. Rank, not intellect. It's a ghost signal. We've had dozens since the shutdown. Ignore it. But Senator Vol of Threx leaned forward. Number this encryption tag? It's Terran military. Obsolete. Pre-silence. But real. The assembly shifted uneasily. A few turned toward the hollow display. The wave signature danced erratically. Chaotic at first glance, but then rhythm. Is it a distress call? No, said the signal analyst from the Interlink Core. It's structured, layered, like a ritual. It's transmitting from Sector Sarin 4. Sarin 4, a forgotten moon, a broken mining colony vaporized in the Severoon raids over 70 years ago. No survivors, no habitable zones, nothing but dead stone orbiting a cold gas giant. Yet now, a voice, a child's voice. The first words came through the static, like the universe was straining to remember them. Please, they said you'd come if we called. My name is... Then silence. No name, no threat, no code. Just a child's fear in the dark. The chamber murmured. This could be a trap, someone said. Svaran trickery, signal mimicry. Another counselor crossed his arms, skeptical. Earth has been silent for 100 years. What are the odds they'd pick now to whisper? A deep voice interrupted. Admiral Tayor, the last living Terran liaison from before the shutdown. He stood slowly. You forget your own treaty laws. Article 77C. If a human distress signal is authenticated, regardless of source, a multi-system response is mandatory. Non-compliance is classified as passive abandonment. He turned toward the council dais. An abandonment, as you well know, is an act of war. Suddenly, it wasn't a ghost signal. It was a trigger, a lit match in the archives of silence. In the Hall of Origin Protocols, Junior Technician Relo was watching the system logs. Sir, she whispered, we've got a relay path. The signal didn't originate on Sarin 4. Heads turned. It bounced. The first note it passed through was Echo 9. The room fell still. Echo 9's been offline for 90 years, one engineer said. Not anymore. Elsewhere across 8 systems, old Terran satellites flickered. Not with power, but with memory. And on a diplomatic moon outside council jurisdiction, a series of vaults unlocked themselves in sequence. No one had touched them. Inside, hundreds of hard-engraved cryoplates glowed. Each bore the crest of Earth. Each carried the same message. If you're reading this, then you never won. And we were never truly gone. The council's panic became procedural. Evac protocols, communications blackout, sector quarantines, all to stop a child's voice from reaching the wrong ears. But it was already too late. By the time they realized what the message was, it had already moved. Threaded through half-dead relay webs, embedded in the background pulses of abandoned AI cores, folded into language matrices older than the council itself. A myth rising on a carrier wave, and somewhere far from them, in the flickering dark of a broken moon, a little girl whispered again and again, waiting for someone, anyone, to listen. There are classifications for planetary habitability. Some worlds are garden-like, peaceful, others marginally livable. But then there are death worlds, places so hostile that even automated probes return damage, if at all. Earth was the original death world. Long before its silence, long before diplomacy and trade and federation committees, Earth had a reputation that crossed galaxies, not because of its location or its size, but because everything on it fought. The weather tried to kill you. The ground shifted beneath you. The air could choke you. The flora developed poisons that killed in minutes or altered minds permanently. The fauna evolved not just to survive, but to pursue, to stalk, to adapt. Apex predators didn't dominate one region. They were global. Wolves, great apes, birds of prey, sharks, spiders, microorganisms that devoured from the inside out. It wasn't just survival of the fittest. It was survival of the most relentless. And at the top of it all, humans. Bipedal, soft-skinned, under-armored by any biological standard. But deceptive. Because humans didn't hunt alone. They formed packs, tribes, armies. They studied the things that tried to kill them, and then found ways to replicate them. When fire wasn't enough, they built bombs. When bombs weren't enough, they engineered storms. Their history was written in blood and reinvention. It was said in old diplomatic briefings that if a human ever says, "We've adapted," it means they've already figured out how to kill you, starve you, or turn your biology into a factory for their own survival. They didn't stop at biology. They pushed into the abstract. Their art carried grief sharp enough to pierce machine logic. Their songs made battle AIs hesitate. Their language evolved in layers with metaphors designed to hide meanings in tone and rhythm. Earthlings were not just builders of weapons. They were makers of myth and memory, each more dangerous than the last. And yet, for all that violence, Earth was also known for beauty, diplomacy, compassion. It wasn't just a planet of war, it was a planet of paradox. They created peace treaties more elegant than any AI codified law. They mourned their enemies. They rebuilt cities they had once destroyed. Children on neutral planets were taught human lullabies for calm. The galaxy began to forget the danger, because the stories they left behind were stories of healing. But Earth never forgot where it came from. When the Severan War broke out, the galaxy learned that Earth's silence wasn't surrender, it was choice. During the siege of Krythos, Earth deployed no armadas, no threats, just one ship. It entered the battle zone cloaked in quantum displacement. It collapsed the star Krythos orbited. No survivors, no aftermath, no message. Just silence and a reminder. After that, no one dared summon Earth. Even the most desperate systems, dying, invaded, imploding, never sent the signal. It wasn't law. It was instinct, a galactic superstition made into protocol. Do not awaken the Deathworlders. But now a signal had gone out. Now someone, some child on a half-forgotten moon, had used an old Terran encryption key, and the galaxy froze. Because even though Earth had gone quiet, their protocols hadn't. In the ruins of the Accord Treaty archives, one clause remained untouched. If a human distress call is authenticated by an older signature, a response is not optional. And the Council didn't just fear the message, they feared the reply. The first warning comes from Sarin IV's upper orbit. A brief gravitational spike, not much. A hiccup in the dark, then another, and another. The observatory officers scrambled to recalibrate their sensors. Fold space activity from 12 separate vectors, simultaneous. Impossible. There's no route convergence registered, says one technician. That's because no one files a flight plan for ghosts, whispers their commander. Then they appear. One by one, ships with no ID signatures, no registry tags, no transponders, just void-colored hulls that don't reflect light. They don't shimmer. They erase. Hundreds, then thousands. Formations build in the black like a memory reassembling itself. Organized, deliberate, cold. Some ships look like they were never meant for war. Weather-stained colony barges, scientific deep space vessels, medical transports retrofitted with armored ribs. But they fly in combat formation, shields synced, vectors sharp, and leading them all, a ship the size of a continent, a shape that blots out stars, the Sol's silence, a ship not seen since the Orion Accord collapse, a myth in most modern navies. Its surface is engraved with names, not weapon stats, not glory markers, just names, millions of them, an interstellar funerary wall. But it is not quiet. As the fleet finishes its arrival fold, every system within 12 light minutes is hit with a synchronized broadcast. No visuals, no threat protocols, just a voice, a Terran voice, flat, measured, too calm to be safe. A Terran child cried out. Who dared make them cry? Across the Council's border systems, emergency beacons trigger by proximity. Auto defense arrays try to lock on. They fail. These ships don't follow normal EM scatter patterns. They're not stealth. They're built with materials that predate known forging techniques. Some of them match ancient asteroid compositions, camouflaged by time. Sir, we can't scan their internal structure. We don't know what's inside, says a panicked coalition tech. Another analyst stares at a screen showing only static. They aren't trying to hide. They're trying to be understood after it's too late. Back on Saren 4, command bunkers brace for first contact or destruction. The planetary militia powers up defense grids, but no missiles launch, no lasers fire. Instead, one of the smaller Terran ships drifts low over the moon's surface. No shields up, no weapons hot. Its bay doors open. A light drops from within. Not a bomb, not a beacon. A memory core, old, cracked, human-coded, lands in the snow like a falling star. A miner finds it first. He's not military, just someone who didn't leave fast enough. He opens it. The message loads with a low chime. A child's voice, maybe 10 years old. A Terran accent. My name is Rena. I live on Saren 4. I don't know where my parents are. Please help me. I don't want to be alone anymore. That was the signal the galaxy tried to suppress. That was the voice that moved a grave world into motion. Because this was not a war fleet. This was a homecoming. Every ship in the fleet had answered that call because every human, across every outpost, drift ship, and hidden cryocluster, heard what the others didn't. A Terran child asked for help, and Terrans answer. They always have. They always will. Council intercepts suggest panic has started to spread. Some member states claim the message is fabricated. Others attempt diplomacy, but the Terran fleet does not respond to hails. They simply orbit, watching, observing like something ancient, returning not with vengeance, but with witness. But those who remember history know what this means. Because when Earth sends one ship, it's a message. When Earth sends a fleet, it's a memory arm for survival. One species ambassador sends a desperate private broadcast. To whom it may concern, we didn't harm the child. We didn't even know she was here. The only reply? A shared Terran archive begins uploading to galactic data streams. Not encrypted, not militarized. Open access. Title: The Times We Were Needed. It contains every time humans answered distress calls, during pirate wars, during famine cycles, during black hole evacuations, during pandemics. It does not gloat. It does not accuse. It remembers. And across the galaxy, people who never knew humans remember them now. The Razul made the first strike. Standard tactics, swarm aggression, signal jamming, plasma arcs, brute force refined over centuries. The human scout ship had been drifting, silent, unarmed in appearance. Its profile showed no active weapons, no shields, minimal heat emissions. A ghost. To the Razul, it looked like prey. They opened fire with a dreadnought battalion, 12 ships strong, high-mass fusion torpedoes, anti-grav ripcords. War chants echoing through comms. What they expected, a kill. What they got, silence. Their targeting systems blinked, then died. Across the battalion, lights dimmed, screens froze. Comms dissolved into static, then into something worse. A lullaby. Old Earth English. Female voice. Software off-key. Go to sleep, little stars. The Razul ships didn't explode. They shut down, one by one. Mid-maneuver, mid-attack. Engines cut. Guidance failed. Crew screamed. The scout ship, still unmoving, unfurled. Not wings, not weapons. A story. On its hull, projections of Earth history, wars, peace treaties, faces of forgotten Terran heroes, children holding hands under firestorms, veterans planting trees on ruins. As the Razul panicked, emergency overrides failed. Every ship's AI reported false locations. Earth, 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 Earth. They tried to self-destruct. The sequence was already overwritten. The last message recorded by the Razul dreadnought captain was short, jagged, forced through dying comms. They fight like they already buried us. Then blackout. Complete. Silent. Empty. Hours later, Razul recovery teams arrived. They found no bodies, no debris, only drifting ships, holes sealed, systems offline. No signs of violence, just absence. The scout ship was gone, but in its place, orbiting each of the 12 disabled Razul vessels, were small black spheres. They pulsed with sound. Not words, lullabies. Terran lullabies, translated into Razul tones, humming endlessly in the void. Software repeating. Sleep now, child, in the arms of the sky. By the time Razul High Command responded, the beacons had already multiplied. Each Razul world, home, colony, outpost, found one in orbit. No signal, no threat, just sound. Scientists attempted to dismantle one. It vanished. Another was fired upon. It sang louder. A single line began appearing on hacked communication arrays. You touched what we protect. We will not rage. We will remind. Fear spread faster than strategy. The Razul were warriors, bred and built to break empires. But they had made one fatal mistake. They struck first. And Terrans do not strike back in anger. They respond in certainty. The council convened an emergency session. Debates spiraled. Why didn't they retaliate with weapons? One ambassador asked. They didn't need to, said another. The message was the retaliation. Because now, across every Razul-controlled zone, children woke up humming unfamiliar tunes. Officers reported dreams of stars folding inward, of humans watching, of graveyards in orbit that hummed. The soul's silence remained motionless in deep space, not speaking, not attacking, but always watching. And as every Razul world turned its gaze to the sky, they heard the same lullaby and knew Earth had arrived, and Earth does not ask twice. The human dropships didn't roar when they entered Sarin 4's atmosphere. They whispered, precision descent, no sonic booms, no burn trails, just silence, so the terrified wouldn't mistake salvation for another strike. They landed where the signal was triangulated, an ancient mining facility, cracked open like a bone under pressure. Dust rose like ash. The world had been declared lost, uninhabitable, unrescuable. But Terran records never forget coordinates tied to children. Inside the wreckage, amidst the blackened steel and collapsed corridors, the signal still pulsed. A team of 6 exited the ship. No insignia, no broadcast, just gear woven with Terran seal thread and helmets that glinted not with chrome, but memory. One of them, a field commander named Aro, paused at the entrance of the collapsed shaft. He didn't speak. He just listened. A voice, faint, cracked, emerged from the rubble. I knew you'd come. It was the voice from the original SOS transmission. Alive. The soldiers dropped their weapons, moved rubble barehanded. Not warriors now, retrievers of the forgotten. It took 17 minutes to reach her. A child, no older than 8, wrapped in emergency fabric, her fingernails bloodied from clawing against metal. Eyes wide, not with fear, but with recognition. She didn't cry. She smiled. Commander Aro bent down, removed his helmet. He didn't ask for her name, didn't explain who they were. He simply picked her up, held her close. The child whispered again, "You really came." Aro nodded. One word. Always. The rest of the squad formed a perimeter, not for defense, but for reverence. The girl's heartbeat echoed across the evac channel. Not metaphorically, literally. Earth's ships had synced to her biosignal. And then the sky shifted. Above Sarin 4, stars flickered, one by one. Not extinguished, signaling. Thousands of Terran ships pulsed their hull lights in ancient Morse code. No threats, no weapons powered. Just a message. We found her. Across the galaxy, sensors captured the moment. The Razul, the Council, the outer systems, All watched as Earth's fleet stood still, but blazed with purpose. It wasn't a show of strength. It was a warning painted in light. We came for a child. You made her ask. Next time, you won't get the question. As Aro and his team reached the surface, holding the child between them, other survivors emerged from broken tunnels. Dozens, then hundreds. Miners, refugees, forgotten peoples. They had stayed because one voice had dared to hope. Now they saw ships dark as gravity, waiting with open bays. One survivor fell to her knees and whispered, "This isn't an army. This is a promise." The girl looked up at the fleet lighting the stars. "Are they here for me?" Aro didn't answer. He just let her listen. And above, the lullaby played again. Not from speakers, from the ships themselves. Their engine harmonics had been tuned, not to intimidate, but to remember. A song old as earth hummed across space. When the sky is cold and wide, when your voice is lost to tide, whisper once and we shall hear. We are Terran. We are near. No enemy fired. No response came. There didn't need to be one, because now the galaxy knew Terrans don't come to conquer. They come when they're called, and they never leave one behind. The Rezul Empire had known war, had studied it, sharpened it, mechanized it, and built their very identity around the machinery of conquest. No empire in 3 generations had stood against them and survived. When they received the alert that unknown ships were entering their system, no panic stirred among the military elite. They merely readied protocols. Their skies were defended, their weapons automated, their cities layered with fail-safes. Then the scans came in. Not one ship, thousands, appearing not from wormholes or slipstream tunnels, but via fold ripples no Rezul scientist could interpret. They phased in like memories returning from trauma. Silent, cold, real. Each ship was matte black, unmarked, untransmitting. One admiral called for a scramble of the fleet, but the orbital systems didn't respond. Satellites spun aimlessly. Defense nodes rebooted. Entire battle groups sat in space, weaponless, not because of sabotage, because they weren't targeted. They were ignored. Instead of war, the Terran fleet began broadcasting. Not threats, not orders, stories. Across every major city, across private terminals and public walls, images flickered into life. No hacking had occurred. No foreign code. The Rezul systems had simply made room. The first image was a child. The child from Saren 4. She sat inside a broken bunker, holding a rusted toy. Her voice, small, tired, filled the Empire. I waited. I was alone, but I believed they'd come. The message played again. Then another story, of a family sheltering dozens in their underground greenhouse as Rezul ships passed overhead. Then another, of a soldier who sang lullabies into their comms to keep children calm during a siege. Each story was intimate, undeniable. Each story was human. Then came the names. Not Terran battle heroes, victims, whole lists, civilians, children. The kind of data the Rezul had erased, rewritten, denied. On one screen, a Rezul archivist saw his own handwriting beneath a falsified death toll from the Earth conflict, a report he'd buried. And above it, history does not forget. It just waits for silence to end. Within the first hour, 10 major cities saw riots. In Carthon Prime, a soldier aimed his rifle at a projected image and couldn't pull the trigger. "Why do they look at me like they know me?" he whispered. The Admiralty convened an emergency war council. They couldn't get half their generals to respond. The reason? Many were inside the central library, watching the message unfold. The Terran fleet hadn't jammed anything. Instead, they'd simply allowed the truth to echo. Over the central Capitol tower, a line appeared in the clouds, written in hovering drones arranged like calligraphy. "We did not come to avenge. We came to remember." In sectors untouched by violence, entire units laid down their arms. In some colonies, Rezul civilians gathered in public parks, listening to the stories, singing Terran songs that hadn't been heard in over 100 years. The psychological weight began to crack institutions. The Empire's Ministry of Heritage issued a recall order for all broadcasts. Nothing happened. Their servers were still active. Their controls still lit. but no commands executed. Because no one was obeying? A council member sobbed as he threw his terminal into a wall, shouting, "They didn't disable our systems. They infected our faith." Then, quietly, inevitably, the emperor disappeared. No announcement, no ceremony. His throne was found empty, his crown resting on folded Terran parchment. On the paper, a hand-drawn picture of Saren IV and 5 words written in old Razul script: "She was only a child." The collapse of the empire did not come with fire. It came with understanding. That was the most terrifying part. Because when people understand, they change. The Razul understood they had forgotten what made them people. And Earth had reminded them, with nothing but stories. Military academies began teaching ethics, not tactics. Schools reinstated banned literature. Propaganda networks were disbanded by their own broadcasters. The final blow came not from above, but from within. A coordinated act of civil disobedience from nearly every major communication node. They all displayed the same line for one day: "The dead don't scream. They speak, and we finally listened." By the time the Terran fleet powered down its orbit stationary engines, not a single shot had been fired. No buildings destroyed. No cities bombed. No soldiers executed. Just one species, long misunderstood, returning to the stars to remind them. Remind them of pain, of compassion, of truth. The Terran fleet turned, slow as a passing dream, and began its departure. In its wake, murals bloomed, phrases painted on walls, carved into steel, etched in data. "We remember who we were. We were not meant to kneel." A whisper survived the silence. The Razul Empire didn't surrender. It dissolved. And Earth? Earth said nothing. Because there was nothing left to prove. Only something left to preserve. The war ended without a shot. Empires crumbled under the weight of memory, not fire. There were no parades, no victory speeches. Just a hush across the stars, like the galaxy itself had exhaled after centuries of holding its breath. The Terran fleet, thousands strong, turned in silent formation. No lights, no fanfare. Just shadow moving through space with the grace of something ancient and tired. They did not wait for thanks. They did not linger for credit. One by one, the ships folded space and vanished, dispersing like a myth returning to sleep. In their place, only one thing remained: a signal, broadcast not on military frequencies, but on open civilian bands, translated into every known tongue. Simple, unequivocal. "We do not conquer, we remember." Then silence, true silence. No echoes, no threats, just absence. On the surface of Earth, green again, wild again, the child stood barefoot in a meadow, her eyes closed, face tilted to the wind. She had been rescued, held, healed. Now she had returned. Birds circled above her, trees rustled, the sky burned gold with the quiet brilliance of dusk. No cameras, no documentation, just a girl and the home that had never stopped waiting for her. Across the galaxy, things changed, slowly at first, quietly, then like wildfire. Emergency Terran protocols were drafted in every civilized system. The Council ratified them unanimously, something once thought impossible. They were taught to children, carved into station walls, embedded in AI cores. Rules passed down like sacred law. If you hear a human voice in distress, respond. If you think Earth is quiet, you're not listening. If the Terran fleet arrives, bury your weapons. And above all, pray. The Razul rebuilt their cities, not in steel, but in stone and words. They didn't erase their past. They engraved it. Entire museums were dedicated not to Terran technology, but to Terran presence. On a moon once used for war training, soldiers planted a grove. No statues, just one plaque. We thought silence was weakness, but silence was where they became strong. Humanity didn't return to the stars. They remained present in the way stories do. In the lullabies sung by alien mothers to their hybrid children, in the caution etched into exploration codes, in the reverence with which ships now navigate old Terran sectors, no longer dead zones, but memorial skies. An alliance was proposed, a new one. Not built on territory, but on memory. No titles, no generals, just a single archive. The Library of the Quiet War. Its first line, they didn't retaliate. They reminded us who we were before we forgot. On Earth, the child grew. She spoke little, but when she did, people listened. Because her voice was not just hers. It was an echo of everything Earth had endured and refused to forget. One day, she stood before a gathering of diplomats and said, "We don't want power, we want peace. But make no mistake, if peace fails, we remember how to bleed." That was the last time anyone questioned the Terran legacy. And so, time moved forward. And in that forward movement, Earth became legend. Not because of its technology, not because of its wrath, but because when the stars screamed for help, they answered. And then they returned to silence.